Okay, so I'm going to start you guys off with your Unit 5, Lesson 9 homework. Okay, to get you guys started. Alright, so we've been working on rotations. So the idea of these rotations is to be able to turn an object, an image, or a point a certain amount of degrees. And if you see in your exercise number 1 that I assigned you for homework, it's about the origin. Okay, so for each one of these, it's about the origin. Okay, so again, I've been using the idea of the patty paper. So again, I'm going to continue to use the patty paper. Okay, so here's that point that we were given. I'm going to label this A. And I'm going to make a small XY axis right at the center where the origin is. Now remember, the reason why I'm doing it there is because we're rotating the image about the origin. So when I do that, alright, sorry about that brief interruption. So we're rotating about the 90 degrees, alright, about the origin. So that's the reason why I'm holding my pen right here at the origin. Now remember, a 90 degrees counterclockwise is going backwards against the clock. So hence the reason why I'm going to turn it against the clock. Okay, and I'm going to turn 90 degrees until the XY axes line up again. Remember, that's only going to be one turn. And then we can see here is where the coordinate of A prime would go. So I'm going to put a dot on my grid. So I'm going to slightly just move my patty paper a little bit so that I can keep my pen in the same position. So here's your A prime coordinate. Alright, so that's what they're looking for here. I'm going to call this one A prime. If I'm going to rotate it twice, okay, I'm going to call this one A double prime, and then this one A triple prime, to keep them all separate. So please don't forget to give me the coordinates of the point up here. Alright, now going back to the original point, if I rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, remember that's going with the clock. So I'm going to turn this towards the right. And again, it's only one turn where the axes would line back up, and then there it is. Okay, so I can see the coordinates right here of this would be A double prime. So again, I'm going to slightly move my patty paper so I can get my pen onto the graph. There's A double prime. Okay, and a rotation of 180 would be 2 turns. Now remember, it doesn't matter whether you go clockwise or counterclockwise, you're going to still end up in the same quadrant. But it is 1 turn, and then it is a second turn. And again, I want to make sure the XY axis lines back up and the origin is matching to the origin. Okay, here's where the new A triple prime is going to go. So I'm going to label this one as A triple prime. Okay, so your job is to give me the coordinates after and how to rotate using the patty paper. So there's the idea. Okay. Alright, for some of you guys that are actually looking for the rules of what does happen between all of these based on number 1. So I'm just going to write in the quick rules. So rotation of 90 degrees counterclockwise, which was from here to here, will actually switch the coordinates. And then it ends up actually negating one of them. Okay, which is the previous y coordinate. So this does not mean it's negative. It means it's going to change its sign. It's going to negate it. Okay, now if we rotate 180 degrees, rotation of 180 degrees, I don't need clockwise or counterclockwise on this because it's actually, they're all going to go to the same quadrant when you're rotating it. This isn't going to switch your coordinates, it's just going to simply change their signs. That's all you would do. Okay, and a rotation of 90 degrees clockwise, again, would switch the x and the y. But this time it's going to negate the old x. Okay, so those would be the rules of what you're looking up here if you want to know what the rules were. If not, just continue to use patty paper. Okay, alright, so remember you guys were assigned 1 and 4, with 6 being extra credit. Okay, so I'm going to move on to number 4. This is the one where you have to rotate it, and if we read it, which of the following is the image of this point after a counterclockwise rotation of 90 degrees about the point 42. Okay. So I'm going to approach this one by, well, they want me to rotate the point -1, 6. So I'm going to plot -1 up to 6. There's my point I need to rotate. And I need to do it about 0.42. So if I plot the 0.4 and I go up to 2. Okay. This is the one where, okay, I want this one to be my new origin because I need to turn this point about this point. Okay, so this one is the point I'm going to rotate. Now I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, so remember, counterclockwise is against the clock, so I'm going to go towards the left. Okay, so if you watch, I'm going to keep turning until the XY axes, the new one that I kind of created on this point, line back up. So that way you can kind of see, where did the point go? Well, it's right here. Okay, so I'm going to move my patty paper slightly out of the way, and there's where you can see it. So this point rotated down to this new point. So I'll call this one A, and I'll call this one A prime. This was the point of rotation. Okay, so you'd want to give me the coordinates of that point. Right, now with 6 being extra credit, okay, it says to plot A prime, B prime, C prime triangle, the image after a clockwise rotation of 90 degrees about point D, and then give the new vertices below. So they're asking you to give us A prime, B prime, and as well C prime. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this image, A, B, and C, and I'm also going to copy this point. Okay, finish the homework. Okay, so here I also copied D. Now remember, I'm going to make this my new origin. I'm going to make it a little bit easier to do via patty paper. Okay, so I'm going to put my pen on this dot, and I'm going to rotate this image. Remember, 90 degrees clockwise. So I'm going to go in the direction of the clock. Okay, and then here is where my new image is going to be. Right, so we can see where B, A, and C is. So from there, you guys should be able to copy down the coordinates. I'm not going to draw it on the graph. I'm going to allow you guys to do it yourselves if you're attempting 6 as extra credit. Okay. And then also applying this, we did learn it in Unit 2 about the transformation. So you want to pay attention very closely that they did switch the X and the Y around. Okay, they did switch the X and the Y around. So to all your original Y coordinates, add 4 to them. And then to all the original X's, negate them and then subtract 2. So for example, point A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This point was -6, 6. Now it's saying, hey, switch the X and the Y. So I'm going to switch, this is going to go first now, and I'm going to add 4 to it. Negate the old X, which that means it's going to turn into a +6, and subtract 2 from it. 10, 4. They're asking you, is this the new coordinates of A prime? And they're asking you, does this rule work? And then be able to justify your answer. So then to justify, you would just state what the actual coordinates of A prime were. Alright, we're already using tracing paper to answer this question down here, so I'm looking for the idea of you writing a sentence that incorporates the idea of the rigid motion. I hope this helps. See me in class for help.